Hear me?
Now we can.
Now we're good?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Are you already recording?
It says it's already recording, so I think we're good to go.
What did you set? Did you set that?
I think it automatically recorded when I set it up.
Okay.
So
Cool. Gordon's gonna join. Who else is joining?
Gordon's the last one.
Okay. So Chris is not?
No.
Didn't Chris just have a baby?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
literally just had a baby. So he's a little busy.
Give the guy a break, man. All right, hold on. Let me hit Gordon.
So everybody's been holding up.
Day by day.
Right.
By day.
Try not to drink too much or
Right.
I was just about to open a beer.
Yeah, so this headset is actually my Call of Duty headset as well. So once this is over, I'm just unplugging this. It's going right back into the PS4.
That's all anybody's been doing is playing COD. That's it. How you feeling, Eddie Jr.?
I'm good. Oh yeah.
Junior, I'm chilling. I'm good. I had a glass of wine already.
Okay.
You know, so I feel good.
Are you back in LA, Eddie?
I am. I'm quarantined out here.
Yeah.
It's good times.
Totally.
Cool. So we have a couple people on right now. If they want to send over any questions, just to see if this Q&A prompt is working. Cool. We have the chat going. All right.
Oh, hi, Jay.
Awesome.
Okay, Gordon said he's jumping on in like 2 minutes, so we can get started.
Sweet. Yeah, so I guess once we started the quarantine, me and Josh had talked. We were like, how are we going to move the podcast? Zoom came up, so we were like, hey, let's jump on Zoom, do our thing. Then last minute, we were like, hey, let's just have some other managers come on, talk about what they're going through right now with the quarantine, brainstorm some ideas, talking about what the future may look like of touring and all that. So anyone that jumps in, we have them just, the question was, what can artists do to stay busy right now? What can artists do right now? You know, so I guess we can start with like the emergence of what IG is doing with everyone and seeing was DJ D Nice and how he was able to grab such a large audience, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess just starting there, like where do we see this function of live streaming going for artists and how they can capitalize on that?
I think I'll go ahead. And I think what's really cool with what D Nice is doing and what he's showing is that the importance of building community and whatever your platform is. And that's like from day one, from the beginning of time when music, I mean, in order to get people engaged, and you have to build some sort of community, some sort of fan base around you. And that's what D Nice is doing by bringing people together. But he's doing it digitally. And I think what artists can take from that is not let me go on live as well and see who hops in. Like you could do that, that's cool. But what I've been telling my clients is like there's different ways to engage your fans digitally and build community. So I'm saying, hey, like go in your DMs, go in the comments of your Instagram posts and see which fans are engaging with you the most and bring them together, whether that's through like a WhatsApp chat or Telegram or like even Instagram. But like reach out to them, find out like what they like about you and like get them on board with you. So like I think that's what I've been telling my clients is like you're sitting at home, they're sitting at home, they want someone to talk to, just go talk to them. And we released a song and like the outpour of fans that were like posting on Instagram that the song was out and like telling their friends to listen to it. It's higher than we've ever seen it. But it's because we actually took the time to like reach out to our fans and be like, what's going on? How are you? By the way, I got this dropping in a couple days.
All right. So like that actual, the true engagement, not just throwing the music up and expecting people to listen just because they're sitting at home right now.
Right.
So, yeah.
So like, because everyone's putting out content. So like now more than ever, you need to go extra mile to like really bring them in. Unless you're The Weeknd, no one's going to just listen to your stuff because it's out.
True.
Yeah. I think too, like just to kind of piggyback off like the community aspect, I think at the end of the day, like I think everyone's realizing that we're all superhuman. Like we're all very, very just human at the end of the day. So this is affecting everybody. So it's celebrities, it's everyday people, it's rich people, it's poor people, it's everybody. And so I think just making people realize that like, hey, like your artist telling them like I'm human too, you know? And I think it depends too on what type of personality your artist has. That goes like with knowing your artist. Because if your artist is like a very private person and they're not like super big on socials normally, you don't want to tell them like, all right, go on live now and just like do some random shit. Like you have to still stay true to what you do. And for me, like telling like my clients, like, okay, maybe share some intimate moments from tour or intimate moments during, you know, a video, like maybe your highest rated video, like let's pull some BTS from there from just like your phone or stuff like your conversations that you're having with your friends and just post those so people can kind of see like, okay, you're a person just like me. This is affecting you just like me. And then also playing to their strengths. You know, one of my artists is a bio major. So he's very into all this. He's very tapped in. He's like, okay, let me get facts together. Let me put this out there, kind of help people. And with what you're saying too, Eddie, like people who've been super engaging and people who've been reaching out personally, like taking the time to just like check on those people, like kind of picking like random fans, like just checking on them, like, hey, like hope you're okay, you know, how are you, what are your feelings? People at the end of the day, like we're all now too forced to like sit with ourselves, like sit with our thoughts, sit with, you know, the good parts and the bad parts. So everyone's kind of figuring that out together. And so that's where like music really shines, because the things that people can't express, that's what music does. And so with, like you said, dropping something right now, I think it's just, you have to make sure that you're sensitive with what you're dropping if you're going to drop, and make sure that your intention behind it, that you can stand behind that. You know, if you're going to drop a turn up song right now, are you standing behind that energy the whole time? You know, if you're dropping something that's like super intimate, like, can you explain why? So it's like having that good intention during all this and knowing kind of how it's going to affect others.
Yeah, I think you hit on something that's super true. Like this is a great equalizer. Everybody's in the same boat. Nobody can leave. Everybody's afraid. Everybody's stuck in their house. Everybody's looking for toilet paper. Like everybody's in the exact same boat. And so it's always like, especially like successful artists, you feel like they're on this pedestal and they're kind of off in their like untouchable world. Mm-hmm. And they're not, you know, they're dealing with the exact same things that everybody is. So yeah, everybody can relate to it, right? And I mean, you know, if the Republicans and Democrats can get together and pass legislation, like, you know, this is pretty major, right? So I think the advice that you guys have been given is spot on. You know, like you don't want to be insensitive to it, and like you know, there are artists that have said stuff that they shouldn't have, and they're like, oh, whatever, this is gonna pass over, and it's no big deal, and screw it, and it's like, you know, all the spring breakers in Florida and people having parties and, you know, coronavirus parties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So stupid. And I feel like now you don't see that as much this week. Like you're not seeing that stuff.
Yeah. It's really hitting home now for a lot of people.
Exactly. And then, I mean, I think the D-Nice thing is amazing. And since this is on the Lawyer for Musicians platform, Eddie Senior, it's posing a pretty interesting question. I got a call last night from a friend who's a DJ, and he got kicked off Facebook about 6 times during his public performance, right? And I've been getting hit up a lot by labels and or artists that are being asked to perform live, and they can't because their labels have exclusive recording agreements with them. And it's got to change. This is the new normal, but like until the contracts change, that's considered a live performance, and that could be recorded and then could create new master recordings, which then violate your recording agreement.
Right.
So like, I don't know, you know, and I got asked to like look into the potential of it being fair use and all this stuff. It's a whole new world. Like nobody really knows what to do, since this is the only way to perform now.
Yeah.
Is online. Like, how do you get around with that? How do you deal with it?
That was the major thing about D-Nice, because he was able to live stream for almost like 8 to 9 hours and was never kicked off. Nobody, even Mark Zuckerberg, pulled up to his to his chat and was watching his DJ set. So it seemed like he had clearance in that situation.
He did.
A lot of other DJs don't have that power to do something like that. So,
but I heard that the next time he did it, he did get kicked off. So maybe Zuckerberg wasn't on at that time. Like I don't know exactly what happened. Like lower level DJs that don't have that kind of following, they're getting kicked off left and right.
I have a question regarding that, actually. Since, I mean, Eddie, you work with Smino and Doja, and same with you, Josh, but wouldn't this be a similar situation to when you're playing at a festival and they're live streaming a performance that the live streamer set, because you have to get clearance on that as well. Wouldn't the same rules apply for streaming music on Instagram technically?
Most of those festivals have that public performance license.
Right.
Music be performed. It's not in this situation. Every DJ would have to get a public performance license to not being kicked off if they want to live stream the music, essentially.
Yeah. So I mean, like when you're at a bar, right, and then there's a DJ playing there, they've got an ASCAP, they've got a public performance license, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and so that's how you get around it, right? Mm-hmm. And the club has to pay their dues, and that apparently trickles down to all the different artists. But when it's on live, if you're playing a song and it's on YouTube, the rights holders are supposed to get paid. But when it's live, until it's recorded, nobody's getting paid for that use. So that's where the labels are coming in. And it's not like there's a person that's monitoring this and watching it and clicking stop, on a DJ's feed. It's an algorithm that they have set up. And as soon as it recognizes that there's copyright material being played, they just put an end to it. That's why they're able to jump back on. But the problem is that if you get a couple of violations, you're kicked off. So the Instagram, you lose your status on Instagram, and it's a whole process. Right. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. So Josh, you're a little bit more familiar with like the Twitch world, with Mystery School doing their thing over there.
Yep.
How does it work with DJ sets over there? Are we seeing people getting snatched off of there, or?
I mean, not yet. Like, and well, I think the reason why is because Amazon owns Twitch, right? And so I think that the people are signing deals. I don't know this for sure, but what I'm guessing is that people are signing deals with Amazon Music so that these live sets that they put out eventually end up on Amazon Music, because Diplo is going on there, A-Track's doing stuff. I mean, huge DJs are going on there. When Mystery School is doing their opening DJ set and, Owen is DJing for a half hour, like nobody cares. It's not like anybody is, they're not looking for that. But if people are bringing people over for a DJ set, people are going to pay more attention. So my guess is that Amazon is handling those type of rights clearances ahead of time.
Gotcha. I was just seeing in the news that SoundCloud and Twitch are partnering up to come up with a new live streaming platform that allows for donations for artists. So now they can start getting paid for these gigs. So I wonder how that's going to look when it comes out in comparison with and what these labels are going to do to try and stop that if they can't get paid from it,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's crazy to me that like you can't play, forget about the DJs, but like, Doja's getting asked to play all these live streaming performances, right? Yeah. And her label's saying no. Like her label they want her in front of as many people as possible at all times, but like they don't want the legal department for Sony is saying no, you can't perform live. And it makes sense before all of this happened, but now, man, like they've got to figure out a way around it, because I mean, I'm reading stuff. This is going to last. Social distancing could last 6 months.
Yeah. Also, you don't want to be late to the party.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you're missing out on opportunity. You got to get with the times. It's funny because it reminds me of when Spotify and all the streaming DSPs first started getting on board, and they had trouble getting the labels to get on board, and labels were threatening to pull catalogs from there. But now it's probably like one of the best things that's happened to the music industry in a long time. And I think it's the same thing's going to happen with Twitch and all this live streaming. It's like either get on board or get left behind. The people that are going to be at the front of it are the ones that are going to eat the most.
Definitely. Sure. So I could see the labels even trying to create their own version of a Twitch,
right?
Just so they can monetize the best they want off of it.
Yeah.
Have we paid attention to the stimulus bill being passed? Money coming out?
Yeah, I have. I mean, we have, as Eddie knows, is that Gordon?
Hey,
Gordon. He's connecting the audio. He's a little slow on everything. Gordon, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you guys. Hey guys.
Hey, cool. What's going on, Gordon? How are you?
You know what? How yourself, man?
Good. How are you holding up in the quarantine life?
It's actually not bad, man. It's I know it's probably difficult for some people, but I'm actually, taking the time to just work on do things that I typically don't have time to do.
Got you. Do you still
Looks
have?
like you put on a clean shirt, Gordon. That's good.
I put a new shirt on for you guys.
Thank you for that. So have you been staying busy during this time? Do you still have work that you have to do for clients or anything like that, or it's just self?
Yeah, our industry doesn't really, I'm in management. Our industry doesn't really slow down. In ways, it's kind of picked up and it's gotten a little more tedious than it normally is, because we are in a space now where we're very limited with the capabilities and what we can do to keep artists relevant. And so there's a lot of outlets, and they're not only press outlets, but you have outlets such as marketing outlets, you have press outlets, and you have digital outlets. They're all looking for very similar content from similar artists. So it's we're getting a ton of requests that are all very similar, and it's just getting a little redundant at this point though. But so we have to filter through that, and then it's just keeping the artist focused and getting some of these things done during this quarantine time. It's also just another situation, and then you just have to still map out and still increase business, because business can't slow down during this time. So you have to find creative ways to kind of keep things moving, which is it takes up a good amount of your time.
Got you. Are you looking to rush any releases of music now that we're sitting in this time, or are you still trying to stick with the plan however you had the rollout looking?
I say no. I say I think a lot of people are doing that, but I think in a way you can put yourself in a jam, because if you look at the stats, music streaming is actually down right now. Majority of people listen to music, consume music during a commute, during some type of either a workout and things like that. A lot of people, gyms are closed. Nobody's really commuting to work back and forth. So when you're at home, TV is the new music streaming now. People are consuming more television, more Netflix, more movies, and than they have before, because people are home. Most of the time people are home for an extended period, a short period of time throughout the day, whether it be like at nighttime or whatever the case may be. Either they're tired, so they're not really watching streaming TV, or they're home for, you have the group, the people that are home for 4 or 5 hours after work, especially like the people that work 9 to 5. They get home 6 o'clock to cook dinner, throw on some television, till 10, 11 o'clock, and they go to sleep, and then they consume music on the way to work, on the way back from work. So it's eliminated a lot of the music consumption. So do I think you should rush music right now? I don't think so. I think that you should stick to your plan and release when it's right for, the artists that you're working with. Sometimes it could be a perfect time. I've seen it work for some artists, and I've seen where some artists it hasn't really worked so well. So
yeah,
I think it all is case by case basis.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that Tamika said before you got on. It's like, you got to be careful with what you release. Like, is this a good time to release like a big club song? Like, nobody's going to a club right now, So I think you're right. I think the one thing that we've been trying to push is recording as much as possible, which is also not easy because studios are closed, but most people can record at home, and like record as much as you can and get creative with other producers. Gordon and I were working with 3 artists, and we put them on a group chat and FaceTime so that they could vibe out and figure out what they're looking for and start working on an album, and they never have to be in the same room, so like that's what you got to work on now. I mean, that's what I would recommend to all of the artists, is like, don't rush to put stuff out, but like start recording as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, I think that goes for artists and managers right now. Like, it's just time, like Gwen said, like just kind of create, and then for managers too, to work on stuff that we haven't been able to work on because we're always so, immersed in our clients. So if it's like your own personal brand, like getting your own, your own agency together, everything like that, making sure everything is in order. So yeah, when things are up and running, like we're ready to go. And as far as like being creative wise too, I have to tell my artists, like, be kind to yourself right now if you don't feel like, you know, you're in a creative mode, because I think people look at artists and think like they can make something out of nothing, or, you know, or like the hardest times are the best times for music. But, you know, telling my artists, like, if you need to sleep today, then just sleep today. And then tomorrow, you know, figure it out, like making sure that they're at least being kind to themselves in that creative mode. And then for us too, it's kind of switched a little bit, because normally we wait until my artists are kind of almost complete and then they share music with me. So now we're sharing music a little bit more than we normally do. And so it's kind of good for me too, because I've been able to figure out, like, plan wise, like, okay, marketing wise, what's this going to look like? Rolling out wise, like, what's this going to look like? So that when the time comes, because that's the biggest thing, is like, nobody knows when this is going to be over, like, for sure. So it's really hard to plan with that. And I think it's easy to get discouraged with that. But I think as long as we make sure that we're still planning, so when the time comes, we're prepared, is probably the most important thing to make sure that we're doing.
Gotcha. So how do you guys see the I guess the future of touring once the quarantine lockdown is lifted and people can get back out? Do we see it being a very quick thing where people are rushing to go see live shows, or do we feel like America's still gonna be a little hesitant to be around crowds starting off?
I think I think there's a few different scenarios. One being, I think the most likely scenario is going to be, you know, because people are financially hurting a lot right now. So I don't think anybody's going to be rushing to spend a bunch of their money, because I think a lot of the country, especially in Middle America and stuff like that, are going to be, there's going to be a recovery period of time where people are going to, you know, there's a lot of people without jobs now. So I think people are going to be in that mindset and mind frame. So I think it's just the same as you know, behind any recession or any economic time where it's been really difficult. I think it's going to be a period of time where you have recovery, financially, health wise. You know, I think a lot of people are just wary and scared right now. So I think, you know, that's going to have to wear off. So I think when we're back in, I think it's going to be a period of slow time, and I think then we're going to see a period where everybody wants to be outside, you know, whether it be free, you know, whether it be for you know, money or whatever the case may be. I think it's going to be a slow, gradual climb, and there's going to be a heavy, you know, pack of time where people are going to be at every show, and it's going to be very difficult to go to every show too. So it all depends. I think like you know, Josh and I are having, you know, we're having some, you know, difficulty putting some tours out. Like in November, you can't get dates overseas at all, you know, so we're having to put some things into next year because there's so much happening. And you know, because venues for an entire year, venues have an entire calendar, and you have each night where you have, you know, a different act. There's a million acts out there, that especially ones that want to tour. So if you take off, essentially what we're doing is taking from pretty much April all the way probably realistically into July, where there's going to be no shows. And then you have everybody that, like, including festivals, including every artist trying to close out the year because financially that people need it, you know? So everybody wants to get that in. So you have all these acts that are trying to reserve space at these different clubs and different venues and stuff like that. So it's gonna, you know, it's going to be a period of it being crowded. And then I think it's going to go to normal. It probably won't be normal until, I would say, 2021, honestly, respectfully, what's happening.
Yeah.
To add to that, I think we're going to see a lot of independent promoters and smaller venues probably shut down. So I think there's going to be less options for artists to even perform, because not everyone, I mean, it's going to be hard for a lot of companies to basically come out of this and be like, we can still throw shows, because I think a lot of independent promoters and venues are using, you know, they're used to having 5 shows a week, you know, or 7 shows a week every week to keep the lights on and pay future advances. And now they're going to a period where they have 3-4 months without any shows. So it's like, for the first few months, they probably won't even have enough money to cover their down payments to book artists. So it's going to be like a trying time. And I don't think there'll be as many options for artists to even like book shows or play shows, besides the fact that everyone else is trying to play them. There's going to be less people that are willing to actually do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the bigger artists, the bigger name artists, and the bigger, you know, stadium tours just kind of going back to the way things were. I don't know exactly when. I think it's optimistic to say July, but like, you know, as soon as it's given the green light, I feel like, yeah, those kind of tours are going to take off. But I think you're right, Eddie. I think for the smaller independent artists that are making, you know, $1,000 a show or something, those are going to be really tough. Like, promoters are not going to have the money if they survive. And so, you know, I'm afraid that at the end of all of this, what we're going to be left with is like, there are going to be Burger Kings and Amazon and Costco. And like, I don't know what else is going to be left. And I think Eddie Sr. said at the beginning, like, have you been paying attention to the stimulus? It is super important for small bands, for small businesses, management companies, anybody involved in music to pay attention, because there are loans that are now going to be available in the billions of dollars, that if you are making X amount of dollars and you need to cover payroll and you can, you know, apply for these loans, they're going to be grants. You're not going to have to pay them back. I mean, you have to know, and this is very broad stroke, so don't hold me to this, but like, you're going to be able to apply for this stuff and use it once you show the proof that you deserve it. And you're either going to pay 0 interest on it for a very long time, or you're not going to have to pay it back at all.
Right.
So like, everybody should be looking into that and talking to their bank, talking to, you know, I mean, even if you just bank at Chase, like, talk to Chase. They're going to know, they're going to have this money to give out. And it's like, that's what the money is for. That $1,200 that you're getting as a check, like, that's nothing, right? Like, how long is that going to last you?
That's a month.
We've been dealing with that a lot with some of our clients, actually, looking for like different ways to find funding. Like, one of our clients just paid for a whole, you know, North American tour out of her own pocket, and we had, you know, a ton of college gigs lined up after the tour they were going to basically replenish the bank account, and everything's canceled, obviously. But one thing that we've talked to like all our creditors and all that stuff, and basically been able to almost pause all our payments. So if you do have things that you owe, like, call your credit card company, call your bank, and call your line of credit. Like, hey, this is a situation, and they're willing to work with you. They'll pause payments, or they'll even restructure their payments. One thing to keep in mind with the SBA loan that's coming out, I think it's beneficial for a lot of young artists as well. And like especially artists that have like an LLC formation, is you need to be in business for 2 years to actually even qualify for it. So one of our clients her LLC has been officially formed for 20 months instead of 24 months. So we didn't qualify. So those are going to be some challenges that people have to like overcome and figure out in that lane.
Yep.
Yeah. Wait, so you said 2 years. Is there any financial requirements? You have to make a certain amount of money to even apply, or is it just that 2 year requirement?
Just need to have an LLC for 2 years, and you can apply. But that's like the first qualification you need to meet.
So they're trying to introduce different legislation. Like in Chicago, the mayor's office is trying to introduce legislation to help people who are 1099 or independent contractors, because you don't even qualify for unemployment. Right. If you're 1099. So there's, you know, all of these people in the music industry that are tour managers, or they are, you know, roadies, whatever it is, you know, like, they're not employees. California is different. Everybody's seen as an employee there. And so you're able to get it. But in Chicago and the majority of the states, if you're 1099, you're not entitled to unemployment. So there's new, they're trying to pass aid in Illinois to help those people out as well.
Sweet.
You got questions, Eddie?
Yeah, Simone's asking about sampling.
Yeah, I was actually just about to answer that on right back, but I guess we'll talk about it. Yeah, but sampling work is you know, the artist is responsible for clearing samples.
Wait, what was the question?
The question is, how does sampling work? Who's supposed to get the clearance, the artist or the producers? And what if it's 10 seconds of a sample?
All right. Let's let the non-lawyers answer it, Eddie, and then let's see what happens.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, because Gordon was ready to go.
He was killing it. So I was like,
it's you know, I actually, you know, so I'll tell you a story, actually, small story, quick one. But when I before, you know, a lot of this management stuff, I kind of like, in this music stuff, I kind of learned on my own through trial and error, and I made a few mistakes where sampled some things and put the records out and got things shut down online. And I actually, there was a really big mistake. I had an artist that was really buzzing, and he had a few samples on a project that was everybody was anticipating the project. We put it out, crazy streams for the first day and a half, and then SoundCloud took it down. And I was like, why did they take it down? I was like, what are they doing? They're trying to ruin us. And there was a few samples within the project that had not been cleared. I had no understanding of like what the clearance process was, how to even do it, especially at an independent level. And at an independent level, I still struggle with it a little bit, but I just know at a major level, when you're dealing with publishing companies and you're dealing with labels, they are responsible for clearing those samples, and they are also held liable because they are the owners of the masters at the time. So I mean, there are attorneys here that can kind of give you the full run through and the legal jargon, which I think you should understand. But it doesn't matter how long the sample is. It could be 10 seconds, it could be 1 second, it could be, and maybe, I don't know if you guys would actually know, but I just know that even if it's an interpolation that sounds like something, they can still come after you legally for it. And so I'm going to pass it to the.
That was good, though.
Great. That was
great.
So what you got, Josh? You want to jump at it?
Oh, yeah, you're gonna pass it to me. All right, Eddie. Well, I mean, the time doesn't matter. There's some case law out there that if it is under a certain period of time and it's unrecognizable, that you can get away with it. But like, I wouldn't recommend going that route. And if you create new music out of samples, you can make the fair use argument, but that's super complicated, and that's not what most people are looking for. So if you're using a sample and you're not re-recording it, you got to clear the master rights and you got to clear the publishing rights. If somebody is hell-bent on using a sample, which is super common and can be really powerful, we like to suggest that they re-record it. So then you're just clearing the publishing side of it. And it basically takes your cost and cuts it in half. So you've got to pay the rights holders. You could use a sample, and then on that sample, there might be 4 different writers of the sample. Then you've got to clear it with all 4 of them. And that takes a long time, and it could cost a lot of money, and it tends to bog things, way down. So for independent artists that are trying to use samples, don't just put it out and hope that nobody sees it. It's a process, and you can do it by yourself. Using a lawyer is usually easier, just because we know the jargon and have the sort of the knowledge of how to do it and how to negotiate it.
Yeah, and then also that the responsibility again falls on the artist, not the producer, because at the end of the day, technically is the artist is in ownership of the record that they're putting out. So whenever someone's sued, they're going to be coming after the artist, and typically in that contract, the producer is even declaring that if anyone comes after the artist or if anyone comes after the producer, that all lawsuit will go on to the artist because they're technically in ownership of that record.
Exactly. So you're going to have the artist ask for indemnification from the producer, meaning that if someone comes after the artist and the artist got the beat from the producer, that the producer has to protect them, but then the producer is going to do the reverse and ask the artist to indemnify them. So it's like everybody's looking for protection, and the best advice is to clear the sample.
Gotcha. Sweet. I think that was a cool question, but that's the only one we got, man. We're not getting a lot of.
Well, we're a podcast normally, right? So we're not used to having people hit us at the time that we're recording. So I'm going to give us a little bit of a break there.
Right. So
I got a question though. I mean, so like what Gordon was saying, what we're getting asked to do for Doja and some other artists it's the exact same thing, right? It's like go on live, talk about being in quarantine, do a makeup tutorial, do cook a meal. Like, how do you stay creative, and how do you do some things right now that are like outside the box? I mean, that's sort of what we're struggling with. It's like, if she's just going to go on Instagram Live and and talk about what she's doing, then how do we do that for a brand and potentially get paid for it? You know, I think that's the challenge right now. It's like, how do you get creative with such a limited resources? You can't go out, can't get a film crew, you can't work with anyone.
Yeah.
So have you guys seen anything that's been like, oh wow, that's a great idea? Because
Kaylani just dropped that video on YouTube not too long ago, and it was all shot in her bedroom. So it's now you really have to be creative with the resources you have, and now the true creatives are going to almost rise to the top now, because now like you said, you don't have the ability to just go out and get a really nice film crew, really dope editor. You have to do these things on your own. So now those are the ones that are going to be getting hit up for more opportunities, because they have the ability to work at home by themselves almost.
Right.
I think too, it's like a lot of, like you said, making it seem like it's an at home. It's really one of those things that goes down again to knowing your artist and knowing what they engage with and kind of what they believe in. Because once you do that, it's just easier to engage with the brand, and it's easier to sell that to a brand because it's authentic. For instance, like one of my clients working with, a big athletic brand who also focuses on like mental wellness and, physical health, because he's that way. So it's one of those like, okay, how can we incorporate what he actually does every day with that brand, just having like the brand presence, and then also too trying to figure out like what the brand represents and how you can kind of incorporate that too, has been one thing that's like really helped us. But again, that goes to like knowing your client and like knowing their everyday routine, and kind of, it's a little bit easier, I feel like, than people make it sometimes. I think people think it has to be like elaborate, but a lot of these brands want to be household brands. And so it's really easy to say like, okay, I just use this every day in my, everyday life like this. But it's really, again, it comes down to those relationships that you've made, because it's like, you have that relationship to hit that person up with that brand and be like, hey, this is what I have. And it's also like, it's, for me, I know it's been awkward. Like, do I pitch this deck right now about this, or do I not? Like, it's a weird time. And also too, I've had responses where people are like, we're not really giving out money right now. Like, people don't really know like what these campaigns are going to look like or how long they want them to run, because they don't really know what their future looks like too. So that's been a little bit difficult as well. But Eddie, I know Eddie worked with folks, so I know that's like her whole world is brand engagement.
Yeah. It's funny. She's actually kind of using this time to just catch up on what she cares about. So she's just been doing a lot of like personal projects and sharing that with her audience. Her audience really reacts well to that. So she's literally just being herself on the internet. And that's what she's doing. That's what resonates well for her. So that's what she's doing. I think one thing that we haven't talked about is TikTok. I think that this is like the perfect time to sharpen those TikTok skills, because I'm on TikTok for like an hour and a half a day, just scrolling up and down. So like, if you're an artist and you're trying to find different ways to connect with your fans, people are making songs just to try out on TikTok. And if they go well on TikTok, they'll turn them into a full song. I don't know if you guys know who Curtis Roach is, but he's an artist out of Detroit. He did this Bored in the House song, which is just him on a table, just saying how he's bored in a house, and like blew up on TikTok, this unknown 19-year-old from Detroit. And now Tyga reached out to him, and they have a song dropping tonight at 9 p.m., I believe. All because he just was himself on TikTok and just tapped into his fan base. So like, I guess to that point, it's really just about going with him specifically. It's really like what he did was he just honed in on that platform and just got good at it and figured out what worked and kept trying things. So I think right now, like, artists should just be going on different platforms and just being consistent and trying different things until something sticks.
Agreed.
I also think that TikTok is it's gotten so big now that I think that artists should definitely not jump on TikTok with the assumption that if they have a dance video that it's going to take off.
Right.
It's still very much a lottery and it still should be approached with the same approach you would approach if you were trying to do an Instagram campaign or something along those lines. And I think that a lot of there are ways to reach out to some of the TikTokers and get them involved in your movement at a smaller stage. And looking at some of the guys that have, 1,000 followers, 4, 5, 6,000 followers on TikTok, and getting a group of those guys into what you're doing, get them your music, and kind of do your own campaign. I know a lot of people are doing that. There's actually a lot of companies that have kind of sparked out of TikTok and now are doing TikTok branding and TikTok things along those lines. So maybe even tapping in with some of those companies that are out there doing that. If you have a budget, if you don't, then, getting on the ground and doing some of those things yourself too will also be very helpful. And moving just as if you would find, an artist or, influencer that has, 5,000-10,000 followers on Instagram to get them to post your stuff or become fans of your music and stuff like that. It's I would say it's a similar approach. It's almost the same thing almost.
Gotcha.
For sure. We just spent on a Cool Kids release. We just spent money that we would have normally spent on either PR or like an influencer campaign on putting a dance together, and it lived on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. And it was, I don't know if it was successful or not. It didn't take off. It didn't become like a challenge or anything on TikTok, but it was super cool. And that content lived on all different mediums. So it's on YouTube, it's everywhere. And I think it helped. It's sort of hard to say, but like to Gordon's point, there are agencies now that instead of like 2 years ago, you would pay an agency to get Instagram influencers. Now you're paying TikTok influencers. It just sort of shifted over. So it's been kind of interesting to see.
I think the key is being consistent. Like if you're going to try any of these things,
Yeah.
you can't try it once and be like, oh, it didn't work that one time. Like,
Yeah.
you got to keep going. And that's people that I'm seeing like make it and like create something out of it and really benefit out of using those platforms, whether it's influencers or TikTok, are the ones that are consistently trying it and consistently tracking the results and making sure that they're like improving. Because it's not going to, like you said, it's not going to blow you up overnight.
Right.
True. So we got a question in. Someone asked, what are some of the things you guys are doing to adjust? So I guess overall, just adjusting as humans. I guess we all share the same struggle there. But I guess as managers, what was the first adjustment once we knew the quarantine was happening and things started getting canceled?
Man.
I mean, go ahead, Tamika.
It's really like it was a day by day thing at first. I feel like it still kind of is, because again, we don't know like how long it'll last. My biggest thing for my my clients is just making sure that obviously everything that was outstanding or that was close to being due is like paid. That was my first thing, is like, all right, are you guys good? Are we current with all payments? Like, is everybody paying us? But one thing too is just for me, like what I'm thinking about how I'm adjusting is, the good thing for us is a lot of my artists are in project mode, so they're creating. So that's kind of like good that they're doing that right now. But also too, like seeing like syncs, we do a decent amount of syncs already, but just reaching out to like companies that we work with for placements, because that's something that's still really thriving right now. I know a lot of my friends are still getting a lot of placements right now. So just like talk, but then again, too, that money takes a while to come in, but it still feels good when you have something like that, coming in. So just like kind of being creative with ways that we've used before, but also to reaching out to those companies and being like, hey, do you have anything custom? If you have anything, because a lot of times those companies will need things last minute, and now my artists are just like in the crib, so they're able to do stuff last minute right now. So adjusting like in that way, and then also too, we had some content and stuff we were supposed to come out with or put out, and again, kind of just like scaling back on that, like, okay, right now kind of isn't the time, and my, the time frame, the outline of everything that we had just isn't working. So just kind of, again, going back and looking at everything long term and saying, okay, well, when do we want to put this in? When is this gonna, when is this gonna fit? Yeah, it's just readjusting, and then everything too, like kind of just like day by day figuring out how long we want to hold off for. It's tough because we don't know the timelines of stuff.
Yeah, everybody's in the same boat. I mean, I think that like, we had a full tour set for Doja, and canceling that, rescheduling it, figuring out, we already started rehearsal, getting people paid that needed to be paid, even though we didn't get paid, and there was a lot to figure out. And so trying to keep the revenue coming for somebody that's at her level, without live shows, is what, Gordon and I have been focusing a lot on. And then for producers, it's been good. I mean, they've been placing, they're able to create. This is what they're used to. I mean, I've seen all those memes where it's like producers, they were meant for quarantine. They just want to create music. And so it's just getting them projects. And I have a lot, I don't know if it's just me, and my clients, but like I have a lot of clients who don't like going into studios for sessions. They would rather just create and send out the music. And like for them, this is great, so they haven't really had to adjust that much. But for live artists, I mean, it's a huge adjustment. I have artists that aren't huge, and they survive on, small gigs and playing a lot of small gigs, and those are all gone. And their streaming checks are not going to sustain them. So syncs are great, but like you said, it's a long time to get them. So looking for other opportunities is what everybody's doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, features have been big for us right now. We've adjusted our rates a little bit, obviously, for features. Like, I think it's kind of that ego thing. You're like, fuck, I don't want to adjust this rate, but it's like everybody's in the same boat, So we've gotten a lot of feature inquiries, and so it's just like adjusting sometimes the price to that, but also like, okay, I'm not going below this, kind of knowing like, still your worth. You can't just be out here, doing whatever. But yeah, it's tough, man. And it's like a manager, it's just so much pressure because you want to like, the other people's livelihood like really depends on you and the the moves that you make. So it's tough.
For us, what really hurt us was not having South by. I had one artist that this was going to be a big year at South by for her. She had 12 shows scheduled, and we had a bunch of labels that were interested and wanted to see her, and a bunch of DSP meetings to introduce another artist. So like that really hurt us in that regard, because we were planning on kind of starting a huge rollout campaign after South by Southwest, after meeting with, these DSPs and marketing partners. So that really set us back, but also not having the opportunity to have those face-to-face with those labels that we were talking to, or to give them the opportunity to see one of our clients live. That really hurt us, because it kind of put a few deals on pause, but also now in a sense, it's helped us, because now we've kind of figured out who really believed in us, so we're moving forward in that direction. But I also had a question for the attorneys in the group. Have you guys seen an increase in deal flow with this shutdown? Because I think one is artists need money if they're not playing their shows. And I'm sure there's a lot of artists that have offers on the table that they're like, I can put this off for now because I've got this show money coming in. But from your perspective, are you seeing record labels kind of being more aggressive and trying to get deals over the line during this period, and taking advantage of the fact that people need money, so they might not ask for as crazy amounts of money to just get the deal over the line, or crazy deal terms?
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess for like the first week or so, it was kind of quiet because everyone was trying to figure out what was going on. But now that people are getting some type of sustainability as far as like what they have to do, I'm starting to see more and more people reaching out, trying to get these deals done, because not only, I don't know if it's because I don't know what their perspective is on it, but now that they have this time, you are seeing more artists being approached by these labels. I don't know, Josh, are you seeing the same thing, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have seen. I think that I have clients who are more willing to take deals right now, exactly for that reason. I mean, and I had a conversation with a guy from a publishing company today, and he's like, "We're busy. Like we're. I don't. He didn't say we're taking advantage of the situation, but that was sort of inferred. It's like all these people that thought, hey, we don't need it. We're getting the show money. Like are now saying, well, that show money's gone. I need a check. And so people that would, maybe they're considering doing an admin deal, or maybe they're just going to do it themselves, are now saying, maybe I should do maybe I should do a publishing deal. So yeah, I've seen an increase for sure in people signing, and those kind of deals, you don't need to be in the same room to do them. So they're not, there's nothing that is slowed down because of the pandemic. That's for sure.
Yeah, my only advice would be just don't look at this short-term problem that you're in and sign a long-term deal that's going to hurt you in the future. Understand that this is going to be a situation that's going to hurt for a couple months, but don't go out and sign a deal that you're in for the next 5 or 6 years because of it.
Get married. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a drunk baby. Don't get married because you're depressed for a few months.
Exactly. Awesome.
We got time for a couple more questions.
Yeah, what do we have in there? I mean, we had another one on up and coming artists was the best way to make sure your music is straight on the back end. Receiving mechanical royalties for producers as well. So I guess that's just mainly having your PRO set up, your BMI, your ASCAP, your CSAC to collect those royalties. Harry Fox as well for your mechanicals. But I'm seeing now Song Trust is a good one for independent artists, because if you have a publishing deal, then of course your publishing company is going to be collecting those royalties for you. But if you are independent, then you on your own have to make sure you're signed up with all these societies and making sure you're getting those collections. So of course your PROs, your Harry Foxes, and also Sound Exchange, something that's also slept on. So making sure you're registered with all those. But Song Trust is the company in which if you are set up, they will collect on all those different platforms for you for all your back-end royalties.
Yeah. And then there's another question from an anonymous attendee.
Josh,
I'm guessing this. I'm guessing this. What's that?
One thing real quick to that.
Yeah.
If you're a touring artist, make sure you register your sets that you perform on your PROs as well, BMI, ASCAP. Like, we just got our quarterly statement, and we got, I think 70% of the money we received from BMI was for touring, performing. So
Definitely.
That's a gem. Too bad our engineer isn't here to drop a gem right there.
Yeah, we have an awesome gem sound effect that we can't apply right now.
Yeah, we got to adjust. I don't even know what Don's doing. I feel bad.
I think he's on right now.
just send them a check anyways.
The anonymous attendee is probably Don. He asked.
Ask the question about his mixtape.
He said, "Can you post a mixtape called Don Beats or something non for profit on SoundCloud using a beat with samples, as long as you tag the original creators and not for profit disclosure?" No,
No.
not at all.
Short answer, no. Long answer,
yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah, being a not-for-profit is admirable, but it doesn't mean that you can sort of bypass copyright law. So no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And tagging the originators, it's not like tagging a photo, which you're still not allowed to do either. But no, you still got to go through the right channels to get that done.
Profit has nothing to do with copyright infringement. Once you're a friend upon that copyright, regardless of what nature it's in, you will be in trouble for that.
Yeah. Gordon, was that you when you were trying to drop that mixtape?
Yeah, my mixtape, man. You're on it. You're featured on it, remember?
Oh, right.
But your name is, I don't want to give people your artist name.
That's okay.
Oh no, we have your new name, but we can't.
You can say it, but I'm not gonna like it.
No, it's all good. But also in the news, I don't know if anyone saw, a photographer who worked for the NBA is now suing LeBron because LeBron posted one of his game shots on his IG page. So I know me and Josh have spoke about this before, especially with tour photographers and people understanding who's actually in ownership of that work. And was anyone?
Did he tag the kid?
You say what?
Did he tag the kid in it?
No, he didn't tag him.
Okay, yeah.
So typically they have the NBA gets clearance for most of those pictures, but it's not for social media use. So since it wasn't, since he didn't have clearance, even though it is an image of LeBron, LeBron doesn't have the right to post that picture because technically the owner of the copyright is the photographer.
But the photographer doesn't have the right to post the image of LeBron.
Right.
So essentially nobody can use it.
Right, unless we come to agreement.
For personal enjoyment. That's it.
So yeah, if the photographer was to post a picture of LeBron, then LeBron could sue him for name and likeness. But
yep.
But I think
that goes. There's been lawsuits about tattoo artists. There was some big one. I forgot. I don't know if you saw that, Eddie, but there was something big in the news about a tattoo artist who didn't get credited, and the artist was on the cover of his or her album. And so the tattoo artist sued because they didn't clear the artwork, and the artwork is the copyright.
Right.
So, I mean, and that happens a lot of times when you deal with artists that have tattoos and they're going for any sort of photo shoot. You have to either cover the tattoos or get clearance from the artist. They don't run into that. It's crazy. Nuggets.
Yeah. When should I go and get an entertainment lawyer? When you have some entertainment business. Definitely.
You got a retainer, or
right. No, actually, going after the lawyer is when you're in the process of starting to set up your first step is when you're setting up your music and you're getting to release stuff, making sure you're having that conversation with an attorney to make sure you're having everything registered properly and you're getting the proper clearances. Then second part is when you actually have deals coming in and things to actually be negotiated is when I would say you need us. Would you agree or?
I would agree. I mean, like, when are you guys, Tamika, Eddie, and Gordon, when do you guys advise your clients to get a lawyer or to get a different lawyer?
I say, I was always, like, when I first got into the industry, the first thing I learned is you need a lawyer for everything.
Yeah.
Is your most powerful asset for anything. Like, there was a guy, there was another Josh, not Josh Kaplan, but another Josh that I'm really good friends with, came in, and I was introduced to him, when I was just getting into the industry and didn't really know. I knew what I was doing, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And he walked me through a lot. I learned a lot by having him as a partner. And so I think if you're an artist and you're looking for a team, a good lawyer can help you structure a really great team. And so I think a lawyer is one of the first people that you should get on your side, and then potentially either get into a management situation from there, or have your lawyer recommend a manager, recommend a business manager, recommend people that can be a part of your squad. I do that before I would get a manager to recommend a lawyer,
Right.
Because there could be ties there, and saying you can get your whole business screwed up. So I would start with an attorney for sure. So I think an attorney is from the beginning. I think it's one of the most important things.
Yeah, I agree. Before a manager, an attorney.
Yeah. Especially with some of the management deals you see going around, if you get your lawyer to recommend a manager or look at that deal before you sign it, it'll save you a headache. I know a lot of artists that don't work with managers anymore that they're still paying because they got into a shitty deal. So with me, with my clients, I mean, I'm pretty, I know all the PRO stuff and registrations pretty well, but my clients, I get the lawyers involved once we start getting deals in place and things for them to actually look at. I'm not an attorney, so I don't read anything and sign off on it without an attorney.
Yeah.
I would say another thing to watch out for is if you're going to a manager and they say use our attorney. That's a huge red flag. And you see that a lot, not just with management agreements, but production deals where they're trying to basically control the entire career of the artist. And they'll say, oh, well, we've got a great, just use our attorney. It's a total conflict of interest, and you got to look at who's paying the attorney, So, don't do that.
Mm-hmm. I will say that, I will say, Josh, I agree 1,000%. I don't think it's best practice. I do, for an example, when I didn't have an allotment of attorneys that can recommend or work with that had nothing to do with me. When I was in there and I only trusted one attorney, and my clients had no attorney, I would push them towards him, but I would completely take myself out of the relationship. Like he'd be my friend. But it's also working with an attorney that that will still keep the client attorney confidentiality intact, and not give you information. For example, like if I wanted information, he would make it very clear, bro, like, I cannot give you that information, man. Even though you brought me to mind and you manage him, et cetera, et cetera. He's like, I can't do it because of my, obligations to, what he signed up for being an attorney. So it's, but I do agree. There's been a lot of situations where artists have gotten completely fucked because they have, they have the same attorney as their manager. And it's like, where they take complete advantage of that. They get them signed into these slave deals, and then 5 years down the road, they're like, "Holy shit! Like I'm in a jam, and you're in jam, you know." So I don't with the attorney first.
I mean, maybe I should walk that back a little because I manage artists and I'm also the attorney for them. So I'm the exception to the rule. I was thinking more along the lines I guess it's really more with label or production deals than with a management deal. Like Eddie and I have seen a lot of these recently, even where the production deal comes in, and a production deal means that you're signing away, you know, you're brand new, and a label is going to give you money for your career, but then in exchange, they're going to own your publishing, they're going to own your masters, they're going to own part of your touring, and then they're going to try to upstream you to someone bigger. And I've seen it where their attorney winds up being the attorney for the artist. And it's like when you have that many different rights that you're giving up and that long term of a contract where you're going to be partners with this production company forever, man, get somebody independent that understands it. And that's different than just, you know, signing a management deal. I have clients where I represent the manager, and the manager will say, "Hey, here's an option," and they'll make an introduction to me, and then, like you said, Gordon, I can't share information. I keep everything separate. So there's a way to do it, and having the familiarity with the manager too allows me to give different advice as well. So it can work.
Definitely. Sweet. Guys, we're at an hour. We're at 6. How we feeling?
All right. I'm feeling like my wife is going to kill me. She's been watching a 3-year-old all day, so I think this is a good time to sign off.
Awesome. I want to thank Tamika, Eddie, Gordon for spending time with us. Everyone stay safe out there. Keep washing your hands, drinking your water, taking your vitamins, you know, all that good stuff.
Real fast, if you guys don't mind. Somebody did say, what opportunity do you see for artists once quarantine over?
Oh.
The answer to that question really quickly is that the opportunities are what you create while you're in quarantine. That's kind of what I have to say. Like if you sit here, if you do nothing, you plan nothing, you're going to be in the exact same situation when quarantine's over.
True indeed.
Make a plan now. If you create music, a lot of content right now, and you plan a release that set back, you know, for after summer, I think you'll be in a great position to at least put yourself out there, I think, right now, and also implement that plan now. Like there should be things that you're doing. If you're doing absolutely nothing now, there's no plan for you when you come out of quarantine. So it's all what you put into it right now. And that's just in general anyway, but I think it's a great opportunity for artists to put together really great plans that you can execute once we're out of this and people are consuming music all over.
Definitely.
For sure.
That's a great gym to end on right there.
Quick life lesson right there.
There you go, Gordon.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, guys. Everybody be good.
Thank you, guys.
All right, later.